the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are
I'm
good.
surprised,
Yeah.
yeah, but they're good.
Pickle beets and,
I hadn't eaten them
I
since
did.
I was a kid, and I couldn't stand them as a kid.
Yeah,
You know,
I was
couldn't
never a
either. You're
fan.
right. I'm the same way, yeah.
But I like them now,
Yeah.
I just thought, you
I
know,
couldn't get my son-in-law to.
Okay,
you can try them.
okay, I haven't heard from Ty.
I just didn't like the color of my urine afterwards.
A little scary. So I did.
We are.
Women don't worry about that.
We are live, folks.
Oh,
Oh, that's just,
oh. She does this to us every time.
I'm a little too far away to mute it.
Under a little fence over there.
Well, it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Are you ready, Michelle? Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Ansarkey,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Chairman Bonnet,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Not sure.
Commissioner
He's on his
Sosley,
way.
Okay.
Commissioner Rettenbach.
Here. And
Commissioner
Ty
Lautner.
is on his way.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Present.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
All right, then that brings us to the purpose of this public hearing. It's a public comment on the Michigan Economic Development Corporation Community Development Block Grant.
Okay, let me start on an overview, give you where we are now. Thank you for scheduling a special meeting. This is a requirement of the grant when we host a public hearing. So this summer in August, we were notified that Leelanau County was eligible up to $368,000 through the CARES Act. And from the CARES Act, it was funneled down through the state of Michigan and was put in the Community Development Block Grant Program. And so of the 83 counties, the majority of them were eligible. There's a complicated formula that they use to get to the funding thing. So this is not money that we are competing with other units of government or with other counties. This is strictly for counties' governments and then for government units and nonprofits within the county. So the first step was we have to send a letter of interest that we were interested in potentially using these funds, which Chairman Bunnick signed, and that was submitted at the end of August. And then the next step was they had to do a federal background and me as the chief administrative officer, and that happened in September. And then the state of Michigan Department of Economic Development assigned a liaison to each of the counties that are participating. And so we were assigned a liaison officer that I've been in contact with pretty much almost on a weekly basis since then to get us through this process. So the first thing that we did is I had a Zoom meeting. I invited all the township officials, the village officials, and then I've been meeting with the fire chiefs to get their participation. So any unit of government in Leelanau County, that does include the health department, and it does include the tribe. For this grant, tribal government is considered part of Leelanau County and are eligible for the grant. So they were informed also. Most of the townships and villages were grateful for the opportunity, but they simply do not have a lot of expenses related to COVID. The way the law is written is any potential expense that occurred from January 20th through December 31st. January 20th is the day of the first COVID positive test in the United States, so that's why that day is being used. So we as Leelanau County have been very proactive from probably first part of April. We set a special account number. So everything that we have spent has been COVID related, we have been tracking. So for us, it's very easy to keep track. And that includes the clean supplies, the plexiglass, any purchase that we have made, any overtime that's been associated with COVID is eligible for reimbursement. Also, going forward, now that we have a liaison, if we wish to allocate some funds for a project that's COVID related that we have not spent money for, he can tell us whether we will get reimbursed or not. So we still have to purchase the supply or the equipment or the service, whatever, but we will know in advance whether it's eligible or not. The two biggest units of government that will probably be participating with us are the health department and the tribe. So last week I had a conference call with our liaison reps from the tribe and the health department were part of that dialogue. And so they had a chance to ask their questions. I've also met with Leelanau Christian Neighbors because food distribution is also reimbursable and nonprofits are eligible to apply. They have to apply through Leelanau County though. And so we have to apply for any of the government or nonprofit in Leelanau County. And then the money would come to us and we would have to reimburse these units of government. So the way the process works is between now and December 31st, at some point, we will submit a report to the gentleman that is working with us, and he will say yes or no on reimbursement. Also, between now and December 31st, any unit of government that wishes to purchase something that's COVID related has to simply send me a memo expressing what they wish to purchase, the cost, and prove that it's COVID related. We would pass it down to our liaison and he would tell us yes or no whether it's eligible or not. They would have to pay for it first. If our liaison says yes, it's eligible, they would have to pay for it first, but then get reimbursed, but they'd be guaranteed that they would get reimbursed. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where we're at. As a county, I asked Johanna Novak Friday where we were. If we were approved for everything we've spent that we have labeled as COVID, it'd be about $40,000. We have $368,000 to spend, so there's some potential there for other purchases.
40.
40,000, yeah, and that includes the extra cleaning that we have done,
Yep.
supplies, pretty much everything that we could think of legitimately that's COVID related. We have put in those accounts. Yeah. Mr. Walker.
I had a question on the nonprofits. So how do they fall under governmental?
It's under the CARES Act, the way it was written.
They just
can
wrote
apply.
it in as a nonprofit?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we, do we decide whether they qualify?
No, what they would do is,
Liaison?
let's use Leelanau Christian Neighbors, for example.
Yeah.
At some point, they will be sending me a memo with their expenses. That will be passed on to our liaison in Lansing, and he will say whether this is eligible or not. When we submit the final report, you'll have to review and make a final decision. But he will let us know in advance, by us, any government or any
He'll help you
nonprofit.
decide whether it qualifies.
Yes.
We don't have to decide that.
No, we don't want to. We will have to submit it, ask for that. No,
Okay.
no.
Well,
But back to your question, he will let us know before we submit anything formally. We can know in advance whether it's eligible or not. I think that probably was your question, right?
That helps a lot.
Yeah,
That's part of the
yeah.
question.
Yeah, so we will not have to make that judgment call.
would we have to write up a contract with them?
No. Matter of fact, it's quite simple. There is no form mandated. It's what we have agreed upon for units of government, including us, if we wish to know in advance whether someone's eligible, simply put it in writing to him. He will look at it and tell us yes or no in writing back. So therefore, there's a guarantee that if he says yes, that it'll be eligible for reimbursement. The final report will be a memo form from me to him listing the items, the categories, how much money was allocated. We do not have to submit the receipts, purchase orders, contracts. About 20% of what we submit may be audited, but we're very confident that we've been keeping track of that.
So, that's pretty fast. So we do not have to have receipts, but we just have to say what we spent.
We have to be
and that's-
prepared in the event we get,
Okay.
which we would anyway.
But so for like townships, then it's actual expenditures and not loss of, say, revenues for
No,
rental?
No, that would not, no, yeah,
Nothing
that's a
like-
very good question. These have to be actual expenditures that were not in the approved budget. For example, just to make this up, we have cleaning services here
Yeah.
that we're doing. We cannot put that in. However, we can put in the extra amount we're paying and for the cleaning supplies.
So if voting precincts want to have a cleaning company come in and
Yes, matter of fact, Michelle's been forming
sanitize,
buy glass, anything that, yes. Yeah.
that's all, could be?
Yes.
Okay, and then fire departments the same way?
Yes, I've been meeting at the last 3 fire department chiefs meeting.
Now, would the schools be?
No, the schools are separate.
They are.
There's a separate CARES funding for the schools.
Okay.
So they cannot, if they're eligible for reimbursement for a different CARES program, then they can't double dip and apply for this one. For example, there's a question about the first responders pay, because some locations of government missed the September 30th deadline date, that they cannot apply retroactive, but potentially under this grant, they may be eligible, and we also may potentially, for the first responder pay that we did for the deputies and the dispatchers, the extra compensation costs that we incurred, like Social Security and so forth, we probably will get reimbursed for that.
That would have been nice to know back when we were looking at whether
Yeah,
to do
but-
500 or 1,000. Okay, so that's my next question. Then.
We
What's
may
the
be
HEROES
reimbursed, there's
Act
no
for-
guarantee, but we may
Right.
be.
Yeah, that was my next question. That was the HEROES Act for our firefighters, so possibly, but we'll.
We may get just the part that we paid for Social Security. and
Okay, so,
employment.
but, and they missed the deadline, that should go.
Some
back
units of
on
government
the
did.
HEROES.
There's a chance, and we don't know yet, they may open this up for this grant also, but they're still working on that.
Okay,
So those departments, let's say someone did not put in for the HEROES Act by September 30th, they may be, and that's a key word, may be eligible to apply for this money. We've also been talking about internet options. That's a huge issue for units of government and so forth. And so I'm optimistic we may be able to allocate some of that funding for projects as long as we prove it's COVID related, and obviously it is. I think they're going to be fairly flexible with that because that's a big issue everywhere with remote learning, remote business and so forth.
Telemedicine.
Yeah, so there's a possibility for that also.
Would the food distribution from the senior services be covered?
Yes, potentially, however, only the overtime cost,
Just the overtime?
because we are,
The food we didn't really buy.
no,
so-
but if they got some of the food that, that's a good example. Some of the food came from Leelanau Christian Neighbors.
Yeah.
So if their food did not come from a federal government agency, if they actually purchased some of the food, then that could be reimbursable.
No. That'd be good. Yeah, but it's only overtime. That would be
Yes.
covered.
Yeah, because, for example, use this April Messiah as an example.
Right.
She's a salary employee, she's our budget. If we hired someone, then that'd be a different thing. However, our Meals and Wheels cost may be covered because we are serving more people now.
The additional cost.
The additional cost, there's a good chance they'll be covered.
So you've already talked to NMCAA and
Oh,
Meals.
yes, it was been working with them. Matter of fact, the director, April and I are hoping to have a meeting this week to go over that. So really, simple, if there's people in the audience, if you as a government have any expenses, they can request reimbursement. And the key thing is, if they wish to look at a purchase that's COVID related between now and December 31st, we can give them a yes or no answer prior to them making the purchase. So there's no risk. That unit of government would have to pay for it in advance. However, they would know whether they would get reimbursed or not.
so,
All right, so is there any, if there's any public comment, please, please call in 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109.
We have no decision need to be made today.
No, this is just a public hearing.
All right.
For people to get an update, and also if people have suggestions or ideas how the money can be allocated.
Well, would this apply, you said nonprofit, so if a church is doing extra cleaning or what, would that, I mean,
Potentially, I don't know about churches, I
Yeah.
don't know.
because I mean, just about every church is, you know, they bought sanitizers and all kinds of stuff.
That's a good question. I know nonprofits, the question of churches have, at least in the meantime, have not been asked, so that's a good question. I think because we've been upfront with all the township officials, all the city or village officials, the fire departments, I think all their questions have been answered. And quite a few of them have called in the last couple of weeks to ask you about it. But the key is, what I keep telling people, this is not money that we're competing for. This is money that's designated strictly for Leelanau County and for units of government in Leelanau County, but they have to apply through us. If you remember when we had the large storm in August of 2015, there was some state money that could be reimbursed, but they have to apply through us first. Oh, I didn't mention the road commission is also eligible through us, but they said they really haven't had too many calls.
But working it.
And there's been other CARES Act, for example, our sheriff's department and our prosecutors and our courts got some money from different CARES grants, so we cannot double dip and ask for twice.
This is separate from that, but I'm wondering, does anyone know what's happening at M72 and 22, the bottom there with that water?
West or?
You're
east?
talking about the
Right
last
by
rain
Tom's.
event?
Right by Tom's Food Mart.
Yeah.
Oh, east.
Uh,
They had some washing west.
From the only thing I know, there's some underground wells there, and the water is just super saturated, and the lake levels are high, there's no place for water to
Well,
go.
the drain commissioner, not this last event, but the big event before that, is, look, there is a drain over there running along the old railroad bed. It goes out down by where the tank farm used to be, it empties into the bay way down there. And he was looking at trying to get somebody in there to clean out that drain so that the water would drain better.
Like, go to the nets here. Maybe we should see if there's anybody else want about this grant, but
Yeah.
Matt, hang on for a minute, there's some questions for you, if you don't mind.
Good time.
Have a seat.
Right.
Okay.
So let's finish up this, let's see if there's anybody.
So, hearing no public comment, then I would, are there any other commissioner comments? Hearing none, then I would say this meeting's adjourned.